Hi booktube, Aaron here, hope you're doing okay. Today I've got a bit of a book haul for you. There are plenty of other little things that I'd like to make videos about, but instead I'm going to be talking about this pile of books that's accumulated over the last couple of weeks or so. And the first few books are inspired by some reading I did early this month. So I kicked off April by reading A Time of Gifts by Lee Verma, and it's just a great travel book. Steve and Mark were reading this as part of their sort of travel book club in April, and it inspired me to pick it up, and so I read it and really loved it. There's just a really open, kind of carefree quality to the writing, and it's just a wonderful journey from he sets out to walk from Holland to Constantinople. This is the first leg of the journey, and that there are other books then that sort of go through the rest of it. And I got to the end and I just really wanted to know what happened next, so I picked up the next two, and they're in totally different editions to that, so they're not matching. But it's kind of just funny how none of them match. So next up we've got the next part of the journey, which is Between the Woods and the Water, and so this is, I think, a lot of it in like Hungary and in Romania, and then this last book, it came out after he died, because he never actually finished the last book, going through the last leg of the journey, but they brought it out after he died, and it's called The Broken Road, where he finally gets to Constantinople, and then I think he kind of traces back on himself and goes over to Mount Athos and visits some of the Greek islands, I think. So yeah, at some point I'll be finishing off that journey, and just because I really enjoyed his writing and his voice, I picked up another one of his books, quite a short one, called A Time to Keep Silence, which is about just different monasteries that he's visited throughout Europe. So it's a slim little thing. I think it's less than 100 pages, but yeah, I thought it would be interesting, so I've got A Time to Keep Silence as well. So there's 3 books by Lee Verma, and I picked up a couple of Penguin classics, and they're Penguin classics that I think will help me with the alphabet challenge that I'm doing this year. So I'm trying to read a book by an author for every letter of the alphabet, sort of going by their surname. And I'm not just buying these for the author's names, they are books that I think I'll find interesting as well. This first one is by Yevgeny Zamyatin, called We, and it's a dystopian novel. And this is maybe one of the best looking Penguin classics that I've ever picked up. I really like the cover of this. And then we've got, and I'll try not to butcher this name, Ryonosuke Akutagawa. I'll just put it up there so you can see, and I'll have the name down below in the description. This is Rashomon and 17 Other Stories. So I think it's sort of modernist Japanese writing from the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century. Yeah, he was born in 1892 and died in 1927, so a short life. Yeah, I haven't read, I don't think I've read anything from Japan really, so I thought it would be quite a cool introduction. And I've been quite enjoying reading short stories this month as well, so it seemed appropriate. And then this is a bit longer. This is Pursoa, An Experimental Life by Richard Zenith, a really big fat biography of Fernando Pessoa. And I reread the Book of Disquiet this year, which I really enjoyed, and I think part of why I enjoy that and I've enjoyed his poetry is just because as a figure, Pessoa is so fascinating and so mysterious. So yeah, I expect this will be quite fun, sort of delving into the depths of Pursoa. And then we're about halfway now. The next one is another sort of modernist novel. It's At Swim Two Birds by Flann O'Brien. I saw this on Matthew from Maybe Book Club's channel, and this was sort of one of his favourite modernist novels, and he prefers it to Ulysses. He kind of puts it as a counterpoint to Ulysses, and it's sort of quite different, but still feels very new and funny and exciting to read. And yeah, he just made it sound really, really good. So I thought that's something I want to read. So I've picked up a copy and might try to get to that relatively soon. And then this one's a bit different. This is something I've always wanted to delve into. I just never got round to. And that's The Wonderful World of Moomin. And it's just something I never really picked up as a kid, was never really introduced to. And I've just seen it floating around and always wondered what it was like. And so this is the first volume of the Moomin sort of comic strips. So Moomin and the Brigands, Moomin and Family Life, Moomin on the Riviera, and Moomin's Desert Island. And it looks delightful. So yeah, that's going to be something that'll be, I expect it'll be really cozy and fun to read. Then a couple of poetry books. I've got Hypnos by René Char, translated by Mark Hutchinson. So this is some more French prose poetry. I was reading Francis Ponge earlier this year. I think I'm just in the mood for not only French poetry, but French prose poetry. There's just something in the way they approach that form that always feels really fresh and really fun. And then some poems by Bertelsbrecht. I've been looking out for a collection of his poems, and this is part of a sort of a larger 3-volume set. This is the 3rd volume. I don't know whether I'll find the rest, but this is his poetry from 1938 to 1956, so from just before the Second World War and then after. So yeah, we'll see what that's like, but I don't really know anything about Bertolt Brecht, so we'll see how that goes. Then 3 more to go. So we've got Inventing the Enemy, Essays on Everything by Umberto Eco. Even though the only book that I've really read, I've read bits and pieces of non-fiction, but really the only book I've read by Eco is The Name of the Rose, and I really, really liked it. And I just really appreciate him as a thinker, and just his approach to not only discussing literature, but also kind of enjoying and living in literature. And so a title and subtitle like this I just found really intriguing, and yeah, I'm keen to explore Eco's non-fiction as well as his fiction, which is something I need to get to this year. And then an author I don't know too much about. I'm pretty sure Mark Nash, or kind of someone of his kind of stripe, must have mentioned him on their channel. This is Georges Pereck, Life, a User's Manual, which has a really, really lovely author photo on the inside. If you like cats, looks very much like my sister's cat. But yeah, it just sort of intrigued me. I read the first few lines and seemed interesting, very, to me, kind of Joycean, I suppose. And then the last thing here, we've got the collected stories of Ernest Hemingway in a old battered Everyman's Library edition. From what I can tell with where the bookmark was when I got it, and with where the annotations kind of stopped, the past owner of this got about halfway through the introduction and then gave up and decided to use it to put their coffee cups on and whatever, and splash paint on, and yeah, so it's a bit messy, but that's fine. I'm not too precious with my books, but I expect its condition won't get much worse than this. And I got this because I've been reading, as I said, quite a lot of short stories this month. And I was in the mood to revisit a Hemingway story called In Another Country. And it wasn't in the slim selection of stories that I already had. So all I've got is The Snows of Kilimanjaro. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't in there. And I saw this come up, I think it's just online, and I thought, well, Hemingway's short stories, it's like the one sort of area of his writing that I haven't really spent that much time in. So I thought I'd just get all of them, and then I can just, you know, dip my toe in the water every now and then and get to know them a bit better. So there we go. That's all of Hemingway, or all of his short stories. I don't know whether I'll try and do a stack. It might kill me. Let's grab Moomin first, because that's the widest one. So we've got the first volume of the complete Moomin by Tove, is it Jansson? Yeah, Tove Jansson. We've got the collected stories of Ernest Hemingway. We've got part 3 of Brecht's poetry. We've got Hypnos by René Char, which I should have said is based off journals that he wrote while he was part of the French Resistance. So that might be interesting. I've just left all these books in random places. We've got Life, a User's Manual by Georges Pereck. This is not going to be a very successful stack. We've got Inventing the Enemy, Essays on Everything by Umberto Eco. At Swim, Two Birds by Flann O'Brien. I've not thought this out very well at all. We've got Pursoa, An Experimental Life by Richard Zenith. Pretty much the man on Fernando Pessoa. We've got Rashomon and 17 Other Stories by Ryunosuke Akutagawa. Awfully sorry. Yevgeny Zamyatin, which still can't get over that cover. A Time to Keep Silence by Patrick Lee Verma. The Broken Road by Patrick Lee Verma. And I'm racing to get to the end now. Between the Woods and the Water, also by Patrick Lee Verma. There we go. I should have done that with my right arm, but oh well. That's my book haul for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.